2, 1, right? Yes. Okay, here we are, Monday, July 10th. Good morning. This is Up North News Radio. I'm Pat Kreitlow. We're up here on Lake Wissota, where it's a gorgeous morning for a radio show that's going to get started in about 6 minutes here. And coming up, we will have Dr. Kristin Lyerly talking to us about a judge's important ruling late Friday regarding the 1849 abortion ban and what it does or what it means for the legal challenge to that 1849 law. So we'll talk about that. We'll have Sharita Booker talking about some of the most clicked stories up on the Up North News social media sites. And we'll also get into what is your definition of nothing when it comes to competing claims about the impact of Governor Tony Evers' vetoes on the state budget bill. When Republicans say that Evers delivered nothing, do they just mean he didn't deliver tax cuts to the very rich and so everything else doesn't matter? So that and much more coming up on this Monday morning radio show that gets started at 6:06. If you're watching on video later on, roll this video ahead 4.5 minutes and we'll see you soon. For Sharita, what I'll do is we'll do again where I do the tag out of the Brewers radio games, which I probably shouldn't be doing this week because we're in the All-Star break, but I'll say it anyway. And then after that, I'll tag you or cue you, and you can roll the Sharita tape.
Sounds good.
All right. Let's have some fun.
All across Wisconsin from Civic Media, this is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Minnesota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
Well, if you say so, Don, thank you so much. Hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. Welcome to the beautiful state of Wisconsin on the shores of Lake Minnesota, where it's another gorgeous day up north. It is Monday, July 10th, 69 degrees up here on Lake Minnesota, 59 in Waukesha. Wausau reporting 66, Turtle Lake 64, Junction City 64, and in Plymouth, it is 65 degrees. Here's what's coming up on tap this morning. A Dane County judge on Friday afternoon said it was her interpretation that a controversial 1849 law does not actually apply to elective abortions and is superseded by a 1985 abortion rights law. Dr. Kristin Lyerly, our friend here, is one of the intervenors in the case, and she joins us in about 25 minutes with a progress report as the lawsuit challenging that ban takes a big step forward. Also, Sharita Booker joins us in less than 10 minutes to review some of the most clicked stories on the Up North News social media sites. And before we're done today, we'll talk to Civic Media News Director Terry Bell about 3 things to know to start the week. Along the way, if you'd like to reach us in the studio, the line is 844-967-2789, and you can email us radio@upnorthnewswi.com. Or you can watch us on a whole series of social media pages if you can't be near your local Civic Media radio station. We are on the Up North News YouTube page. We're on Twitter. And then we're on a host of Facebook pages, not just the Up North News Facebook page, but Civic Media and Bull Falls Radio in Wausau. And now, as of this morning, the Facebook page for our home base in the Chippewa Valley, 93.5 The Tap. So plenty of places to catch Up North News Radio, and we're happy to have you wherever you are joining us on this fine Monday morning. Aaron Zomers is joining us from Madison. How are you? How's the weekend?
Doing well. Yeah, I had a nice weekend. Saw the family, including my niece Gracie, who is now 5 years old. She's now this many, I say, holding up my hand.
and you did hold up the right number of fingers. Yes. So it's so there's who has a bad 5th birthday party? It's the coolest, 5 is cool.
Yeah, definitely. And it's at the age where they're going to start remembering it, where for one example, one thing she got is a necklace that she picked out a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And when she opened it up, my mom was like, "Hey, do you remember this?" And she's like, "Yeah, I picked this one." And if she was even a year younger, she might not have remembered that.
Mm-hmm. It is very cool when they do that. So, well, I'm glad that was fun. Sounds like a great time and gorgeous weather up here. A change in the weather is definitely coming later today, and we'll get the weatherology forecast just over an hour from now, where, some of us are going to hit 90 today, but then that's the last 90 for a while. Showers, thunderstorms, that threat going to roll in. So look for more of that coming up in a bit. I was telling you that I apologize in advance. I might roll right off screen from time to time, or you might hear my office chair clunking. I decided to invest in a better floor mat because I've had a couple of these plastic ones, even ones that say heavy duty, but over time they start to curl on the ends, and then you trip on them or they crack or whatever. And some of these glass-based ones were on sale, so I decided to splurge and get that. But now it's completely the opposite. I mean, it's like frictionless. So I mean, I put the chair with the wheels on there, and it takes nothing to just flip right off of here. So I will try to keep as close to the microphone as I can, but that may come at a price. And I'm still thanks to you, Mr. Zomer, still vacuuming up glitter confetti out of my
Yeah,
rug.
the glitter is not my fault. I had nothing to do with the glitter.
just all of you who are part of the conspiracy, I blame you all. But it occurred to me as I was vacuuming again to lay down this glass mat and still finding it. I said, I think I ought to embrace this. I think I ought to just go back to, the little bag of glitter confetti and sprinkle it underneath where the glass chair mat would be. And that way it would look like a sparkly dance floor. It would always be a
Good.
party. Always a party in the office here where you see the glitter underneath the I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but like I said, still going to be vacuuming that up for the longest time. Over at the Up North News Daily newsletter, that just came out as it does 5 a.m. every morning. Included in there is an article about what people say is the top tourist trap in Wisconsin. And that doesn't necessarily mean in a negative connotation. It's something that where you go, yeah, I got to stop there. What do you think that is? What is the top tourist trap where you just can't avoid it? You have to be there. You can't just drive right past it. Well, you'll find that in the newsletter, and maybe we'll talk about that later on today. Also, I have a new editorial in there about the push to loosen child labor laws. And we're going to talk about that in our 7 o'clock hour and the potentially deadly consequences that it might bring. Over on the Up North News social media site, we have the interview that I took with Danielle Whitaker. She's of the Bristol School District and talked about what's it like to be a new school board member and to learn the complexities of the school funding system and realize it is so inadequate. It is so messed up. And you try to earnestly convey that to certain legislators and how it felt that they recognize it and they just don't care to listen and to hear what she has to say about it. Also on our social media posts of camera video or body cam video of the Sturgeon Bay police officer who recently ran into a burning barn and saved some cows that were inside from that barn fire. So look for all that on our Facebook and TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram feeds. All right, we'll take a break, tell you about the Brewers wrapping up the first half of the season, heading into the All-Star break. That and much more next. You're Up North. you're listening going, have I heard this song before or not? It's a remix. Give it another couple of seconds and you'll go, oh, it's that song. There it is. A little summer breeze on a breezy morning after a very breezy, downright windy Sunday across much of Wisconsin, Saturday too. Coming up tomorrow, Lee Rush, the longtime head of the Western Wisconsin Technical College in La Crosse. He's now active with a group we first told you about in March, a bipartisan group called Keep Our Republic, a group that's dedicated to bipartisan voter education about how America's elections and Wisconsin's election system are already safe, already secure, already accurate, already strong. And that anybody who's trash talking that, undermining it, doesn't have the facts on their side. Now, they might be parroting something that they heard, or their motivations might be a little darker. And we'll talk to Lee Rush about the continuing effort to defend democracy, something I never thought we'd have to do in our lifetimes, but is essential between now and the 2024 presidential election. Time for sports at 6:17. Wade Miley pitched 6 strong innings, and the Brewers made a first inning run stand up in a 1-0 win over the Cincinnati Reds on Sunday. There was a lot of drama in that game. There've been so many either slugfests or lead changes. I don't even know the last time that we sat through a nail biter 1-0 win. But regardless, the Brewers head into the All-Star break, 7 games above 500, 49 wins, 42 losses, and they are just 1 game behind the Reds heading into the division. And the Reds have had an amazing past, 6-8 weeks or so. But Milwaukee did take 2 out of 3 games in this series. Kristin Lyerly led off the Brewers half of the first with a ground rule double to extend his hitting streak to 9 games. And then Yelich would score on Jesse Winker's 2-out single to center field. Now, the thing that I really liked about this game, apart from the drama and what was really a pitcher's duel for a while, is that it ended 2 hours and 4 minutes after it began. 2 hours and 4 minutes. Don't tell me there's something wrong with these new rules. That was the shortest game since the ballpark opened in 2001. It actually matched the record. It was also done in 2006 between the Brewers and the Dodgers. 2 hours and 4 minutes. And by the way, we haven't mentioned this I mentioned it 17 days ago. I said the Brewers are heading into a 17-day streak, 17 games in a row, home and away before the All-Star break. So that wraps up 17 games without a day off. And manager Craig Counsell had high praise for the team's relievers. They really did a great job, he said, really proud of them. They'd been warriors going through this every day. And the whole matchup between the Reds and the Brewers, it's not done yet. Again, the Brewers only 1 game behind the Reds, but that could change a week from now when we're sitting here, because when the All-Star break ends, the Brewers will go to Cincinnati for a 3-game series that starts on Friday. If you're listening to your favorite Civic Media radio stations next weekend and want to hear the Brewers playing the Reds, you can hear them in the Fox Valley on Oshkosh Air Support 98.3 and 1100 AM, or WRCE News from the Center in Richland Center 107.7 1450. And let me say as well, for somebody that text messaged in and said, hey, how come I'm not hearing the Brewers game on the stream? That's a Major League Baseball rules thing. The game goes out over the radio, but that's not the same as streaming rights. So if you're listening to the stream, you're going to hear regular programming. If you want to hear the Brewers, you got to listen over your favorite Civic Media station. Now here's Sharita Booker, social media manager for Up North News. You can find what she's doing for us over on Instagram and on Facebook and all the other places, including, Threads is like the big new thing. It started last week, Wednesday. I think it got like 10 million people in its first day or something like that. So, Sharita, you ready for one more platform to juggle?
As ready as I'll ever be, Pat.
I mean, honestly, it's a lot. If you tried to post everything, I mean, to Mastodon and Post and everything else, and it's crazy. And someday it's all going to settle out. But right now, we've got all these various platforms. People are looking for anything besides Twitter, and I don't blame them. So yeah, between you and I, we'll find a way to get things up on Threads and all that as well. But
yeah.
Threads itself comes from Meta, which gives us, it's actually based on your Instagram feed and your Instagram contacts. So we actually have 3 different Instagram posts we're going to talk about in terms of, what people are clicking on and what they're reacting to and things like that. And I have to say, Sharita, after I don't know how many decades of Rick Steves doing travel programs on public television, he still clearly has a following, and people liked seeing that, he was in Wisconsin doing a little traveling not long ago.
Yeah, so travel expert Rick Steven believes that Milwaukee Mitchell International is a convenient and easy airport to travel from. And me and Pat can both agree. Nothing beats the recombobulation area, because after you go through TSA, you need somewhere to put your shoes back on, gather yourself, and all airports do not offer that.
They do not, and I know I'm not the first or the last person who got such a hearty laugh out of seeing that sign, the recombobulation area. And of course, our friend Dan Schaefer has now turned that into a cottage industry, calling his news outlet the recombobulation area. It reminds me that we had a story not that long ago where Mitchell Field got kind of these low marks on one travel site, and I think a lot of us agreed that didn't sound justified at all. I don't live in Milwaukee anymore, but I love MKE. You do as well.
I do, and I live just a few miles from it. Sometimes I go to O'Hare, but I really prefer not to. It's just too big, too crowded. I have to be in a hurry. Milwaukee is just so much better, easy, convenient. It's quick. It's not ever super crowded. I just love it so much. I don't understand why it got such low ratings.
No, and again, most people that I'm aware of would give it extremely high ratings, knowing full well that you may have to go someplace else. But here's the thing: people love flying out of Milwaukee or Eau Claire or Madison or Mosinee because, and it could be other airports too, but the 4 that I have most familiarity with, because you have virtually no security line. You don't have that mile-long line in. And once you're there, you're in the system. So you could either go to O'Hare or go to Twin Cities International, expensive parking, wait forever, or you could just drive right up to MKE or Eau Claire and, get in, get out. And yeah, it's one extra little flight, but like I said, it's a great airport.
Yeah, one of my faves.
And it also takes me back to the Midwest Express days and those fresh chocolate chip cookies they used to serve on board. And I'm sorry to sound like an old man, but I mean, could we please return to the good old days of fresh baked cookies on an airplane? Is that really too much to ask? Anyway, somehow I've gotten far afield of Rick Steves, except to say that, again, he had nice things to say about MKE. And clearly, based on, well over 1,000 likes for that post, a lot of people agreed with him. So, Rick, if you're listening, come on back through anytime. Let's turn to something that was a bit more in the news vein as far as one of our more popular posts. And that was, President Biden getting a setback from the U.S. Supreme Court on the topic of forgiving, student loan debt, but he's not just rolling over. He's looking for other ways to deal with this, I guess, right?
Yeah. So he's working on a new path to provide student debt relief to as many borrowers as possible, but he did say it may take a while.
And that's true. I mean, it's an approach that is going to involve creating basically an on-ramp with the U.S. Department of Education on, repayments. And it's going to take some time. But as I talked about with Scott Ross last week, it is such an economic stimulus boost to an entire swath of young middle-class families who would then use that money, not stick it in their pocket. They're not going to buy a yacht with it like you would for the Republican legislators' tax cut. It'll go right to work buying a first house or buying a first car. And yeah, again, between the likes and the comments, Sharita, it looks like we saw a lot of engagement with that post.
Absolutely. And I haven't even touched my student loan debt since I graduated in 2021, thanks to Biden's plan. So hopefully he gets that going so I don't have to even touch it still.
No, because again, if that education and then the paycheck that came from it can, be used more in the local economy instead of being sent off to Wall Street, well, hey, all the better for us. So now our third and final one here. I have to ask, since I made up this particular post here, had you heard of Bobby Bonilla before we did Bobby Bonilla Day on July 1st?
I have not, but reading it, I'm like, wow, that's kind of ridiculous.
It is. For folks not familiar, Bobby Bonilla was a superstar player with the New York Mets, and this was back in the year 2000, where the Mets were run a little tight on cash. They weren't all that liquid. They certainly wanted to re-sign their star, and they said, "Hey, how about we defer these payments?" And so basically, a $6 million contract actually paid him out, or will eventually pay him out, to the tune of $29 million, because they're paying him $1 million a year every July 1st from now until he turns like 72 years old, if I remember right. And that comes right out of the Mets payroll. So that's $1 million they didn't have to spend this year on current players. They had to send it instead to a guy who hasn't played in 20 years. Sharita, maybe you take the deal, maybe I take the deal, but it's become like a running joke in baseball,
Yeah, he really got the good end of the stick there.
He did. And
he really lucked out.
And how'd you like the Milwaukee Brewer tie-in with that?
I mean, they're in a similar situation. That's another ridiculous situation.
Yeah, with Kristin Lyerly, when he renegotiated his 9-year, $215 million contract, they agreed to deferring about $30 million of that $215 million. And so Kristin Lyerly is going to get $1 million once a year from the years 2031 till the year 2042, long after Yelich's playing days are over. And here was the interesting part in the post. Yelich's agent and Mark Adonasio, the Brewers owner, they couldn't agree on whether that $1 million check would come to a retired Kristin Lyerly at the end of each baseball season or on January 1st. And for whatever reason, they agreed to go with Bobby Bonilla Day. And so it's going to be July 1st. They kind of split the difference. So that's, why we're going to talk about Bobby Bonilla Day for a few more years, and then Kristin Lyerly. Sarita Booker, thank you so much. We appreciate everything you do, posting on our social media sites. Coming up next, Dr. Kristin Lyerly is going to join us, and we're going to talk more about that somewhat surprising Friday afternoon ruling and what it means for the legal challenge to Wisconsin's 1849 abortion ban. And is it really an abortion ban after all? That's coming up next here up north. Well, that was just smooth like butter.
Yeah, sorry about that little stutter there.
No, it's okay. All right, let's bring in young Dr. Lyerly here.
Do you want to play the last part of it, or
no, it's okay. It was just me prattling on. So I have a tendency to do that, Kristin.
Really?
Shut up.
Good morning. Good morning, Aaron.
good morning?
Oh boy. Okay.
My Zoom Chromebook here was being very, very slow, so I'm restarting it as long as we got a long break.
Sounds good. All right. So other than lounging by the pool, how was the rest of the weekend?
Not too bad. Can't
All right.
complain. Just a couple interesting calls. Things are different in every place that I work, and it's been
Mhm.
fascinating to see just kind of what patients need and what providers in the region need and what the resources are. It's a real learning experience.
Cool. All right. I'm going to get some coffee. You're right back.
Okay.
Well, thank you again for getting up so early for us when you're out there.
Well, sure. I'm happy to.
Did you get a lot of outreach over the weekend
Not
from the
really.
media? No?
Nope. Mm-mm. Nope.
And
And I don't know that Diane did either. We chatted a little bit. I was hoping she'd be able to join us, but she was busy this morning.
mhm.
Also, you are pretty quiet. I don't know if you're able to bring your microphone closer or anything.
I'm on my AirPods.
Oh, gotcha. Okay,
That's okay.
well,
I can turn it up, so I'll bring it up a bit. Aaron, talk.
Sorry.
Nope, it's okay. Here we go.
Follow Up North News online anytime. Search Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for Up North News WI and our homepage, upnorthnewswi.com.
End of the spring and
Just another gorgeous summer weekend here in Wisconsin. How nice to be here in Wisconsin compared to where other people could be, like, I don't know, the suffering through triple digits in the desert Southwest or something like that. Kristin Lyerly joins us now from the desert Southwest. Kristin, how are you?
Good, but I sure wish I was home in Wisconsin. This is my favorite time to be in Wisconsin.
I know, and instead you're running away to beat the heat, or running to get to probably running from an air conditioned
hot.
car to an air conditioned building, the way that we do in the wintertime with heated cars and heated buildings. But
It's true. It's really hot. I'm spending as much time as I can by the pool, but I like hot.
Mhm.
Yesterday I had to come in. I couldn't take it.
yeah, it's a lot after a while, when you're on vacation in the winter, it's like, oh, this is glorious. But no, there's a point of diminishing return on all of these things. All right, now to nobody's anybody who listens to the show will not be surprised that we're going to be talking about the 1849 abortion law, especially since the judge hearing a legal challenge to it said something very unique in ruling on a motion about the 1849 law, which we've been referring to as an 1849 abortion ban. And Judge Diane Schlipper basically said, in so many words, there's no such thing as an 1849 abortion ban because of the way that she is interpreting the law. Now, this is not the final step in the legal challenge, not even close to it. But the fact that she even said this while ruling on a motion to dismiss the lawsuit, I thought that was earth-shattering, Kristin. I thought it was groundbreaking.
She
Can-
hinted She
I-
hinted at this during the trial,
Mhm.
and I felt like this was, we thought this was the case really from the beginning. So it wasn't that big of a surprise, but it was the way that she was so forthright. Like, this doesn't even matter. This is about feticide. This is not about consensual abortion, which is what we've been thinking the entire time, that this law is not relevant. So, to be very honest, it was incredibly reassuring to hear her ruling, and I hope it sticks.
Well, she made note as well that there are already other laws related to abortion on the books, including one from 1985 passed by the Wisconsin legislature. And again, not the final word on the case, but the way it seems to be telegraphed is that this 1985 law essentially says that Wisconsin women have essentially the same rights that they had under Roe v. Wade when that was in effect.
Hmm. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that abortion is legal up until viability.
Mhm. And that is something we should say is the case in many states. When the Supreme Court issued the Dobbs decision repealing Roe v. Wade, I mean, we obviously took it to the extreme here in Wisconsin because of the 1849 law. But what the Dobbs decision did was create a patchwork of states where women have rights or they have restrictions. And Wisconsin was in kind of that murky area where it looks like there's a major restriction, but by the time this is all said and done, we may actually be one of the states where women have the same reproductive health rights that they had during Roe v. Wade. You're an intervener in the case. Can you explain to folks that didn't catch it the first time, what does that mean?
Hey, it just means that I am affected by this directly, obviously, or I would be home practicing in Wisconsin. So, because this affects me directly, I got involved with this case on behalf of my colleagues who are all very much affected by this. I mean, let's be very honest. You can't take abortion out of women's health care. Abortion is integrated into every part of women's health care, whether we're talking about miscarriage management or infertility treatment or helping somebody with a complicated pregnancy. You just can't remove abortion. So, my colleagues who are still practicing in Wisconsin are doing so with a lot of fear. They're doing the best that they can to take care of their patients, recognizing that one, not even a misstep, one thing that is picked up on by politicians could be pursued and could put them in jail. Put them in jail for actually having taken care of a patient. It's absolutely ridiculous. And so, again, for that reason, we were all very much reassured by Judge Schlipper's ruling, and we are really looking forward to seeing what happens from here. The case itself is still ongoing. So, all this did was say that that DA Ermansky's motion to not move forward with the case is not valid. So the case is still ongoing, and we hope that we will win it. And this is not an enforceable law anymore in Wisconsin.
Yes, the ruling came on a motion to dismiss by the Sheboygan County District Attorney, who is one of the respondents in the case. And again, the lawsuit is asking a court in so many words, which takes precedent. Can a DA like the one in Sheboygan County, could he criminally charge us, under this 1849 law? And so the Sheboygan County DA filed a motion to dismiss. The judge last week said, no, we're not going to dismiss this. This case is going to move forward. And now she has perhaps telegraphed how she might rule on the overall lawsuit, but then it goes almost assuredly, however it goes, it will go to appeal. So an appeals court will hear it, and then the state Supreme Court is likely to hear it, which again, Kristin, comes back to just how crucial last April's Supreme Court election was.
It sure does. And as a doctor who just wants to take care of my patients, it's fascinating to watch how this is making its way through the legal system and how complicated it all is, and how we're predicting that, well, this party is going to do this and that party is going to do that. And, there are unknowns in the future. But the one thing I do know is that my colleagues and I recognize that this is not just about right now, this is about the future of medicine in Wisconsin, the future of being able to find a provider who's willing to take care of you, who's willing to work in Wisconsin in the midst of a physician crisis where things are worse, as they often are in rural parts of Wisconsin.
And we should note, again, I feel like I'm giving legal disclaimers here, but just because Judge Schlipper was, it seemed to me, rather clear in her interpretation of current law, it does not mean, I mean, there could still be curveballs. There could be something that she interprets along the way. So while this is, in my mind, still a very huge step, nobody should assume anything, especially in the legal system, and especially, frankly, in a politicized legal system that we have in this day and age.
Yeah, I mean, think of what happened. If you're not familiar with what happened with Dr. Caitlin Bernard in Indiana, this is the OBGYN doctor who took care of that little girl, that 10-year-old who was raped in Ohio, and she couldn't get an abortion in Ohio, so she went to Indiana. And Dr. Bernard did everything right to take care of her and provide her with exactly what she needed. She did all of the state reporting requirements, everything was right on par. And she was pursued by the attorney general, and then she was pursued by the medical board in Indiana, where they ended up reprimanding and fining her after a trial that went over 12 hours, where the president of the American Medical Association was there. One of the people who had written the HIPAA law, because they were questioning whether she had violated this patient's privacy, testified on her behalf. All of these professionals came and testified on her behalf, and the licensing board still ended up punishing her for doing everything right. That's the punitive system that we're living in right now. And that's why doctors are really reluctant to practice in places where things are really, really hostile and unnecessarily so. Politicians need to get out of our exam rooms. There's no place for politicians in your personal healthcare decision making.
And unfortunately, as we're seeing in that case and in others, the the lack of what I might call, the rebel TV doctor mentality that's out there, where people say,
Yeah.
"Oh, we don't need these court cases and things because doctors always find a way to do what's got to be done, even if they bend the rules a little bit." And Kristin, that's TV. That's not real life at all.
It is TV. I have to tell you, I had a case where recently where I had to perform an abortion for someone who was dying. And I was in Minnesota, so I knew I was safe, but I took a moment and thought to myself, what would I do right now if I was in Wisconsin? And I knew what I would do. I would save my patient's life, of course. But that gut feeling where you know that that right thing could get you in trouble, even though it is the right thing, that hero TV doctor, that doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel good, and nobody wants to be in that situation.
No, and again, that was you. There would be other
Yeah.
doctors who ultimately would not, who would say, "Well, my hands are tied. I don't want to be charged. I don't want to lose my license." And if there was a tragic outcome, they would be legally right to have done what they did because what politicians did was not morally right by inserting
Well, would they
themselves into
be?
healthcare.
But they would be caught between malpractice, not doing the right thing for the patient, and this ugly political lie. It puts us in impossible situations. Most of the doctors I know would choose to err on the side of their patient, but the danger to our future. I mean, if we are charged with a felony, that's our future. That's our ability to earn money and take care of ourselves and our families. For what? Totally unnecessary.
Mhm. So let me do a little legal speculation here, and you don't have to respond unless you want to correct or affirm anything I say. But for people going, well, what does this mean from a timeline standpoint? All right, the judge ruled on the motion to dismiss the case and said, no, I'm not going to dismiss the case. The legal challenge is going to move on. It is almost guaranteed that whatever happens in this lawsuit, she's not likely to rule on it before August 1st. If for some reason she did, the state Supreme Court, which is still conservative controlled for another 3 weeks or so, theoretically could then pluck that case and say, we're going to bypass the appeals court. We'll take it from here. And then they can rule however they want. Again, not likely to happen, but this conservative majority, this particular one, has done that already with some other cases in the past where they have fast tracked something or tried to fast track something that wasn't necessary, but they wanted to rule on it right away. To my mind and many other people, they want to rule in a political way right away. Janet Protasewicz taking that court August 1st means that whenever the case gets to them, they're going to face a court with a new justice who has said, I'm not going to say how I'll rule on a specific case, but she does believe in a woman's reproductive health care rights. And so, Kristin, long story short, sometime after August 1st, are you feeling better about the ultimate outcome of this case?
Of course. And like you said, it's really hard to know how this is all gonna play out, especially for somebody who doesn't have a super a great understanding of the legal system. I mean, it's so complicated and so many different things could happen. But once we get to August 1st, I'm definitely feeling much more comfortable. Yeah, this has been such a horrible journey. We know that the people of Wisconsin believe in a woman's right to choose what is right for her own body, for her own family, within her own community. So the Republicans here are so off base, and hopefully they're starting to understand that, and they're starting to recognize that they really need to respond to their constituents and make sure that their constituents that they're acting in the best interest of their constituents. I'm hopeful. I really feel hopeful that we're getting on the right track, not just with the abortion issue, but with so many other issues as well, Pat. After August 1st, that's going to be a giant milestone for all of us.
It really is, but I would caution folks again to take nothing for granted, because the people who have done this with a minority of support, and they know this. But as long as they've got power, they will continue to try to wield it. And that doesn't just include in the area of policy, but in the area of elections. And they have shown what they are willing to do to win elections, or even potentially to overturn elections. And so it's something where everybody needs to continue to pay attention. Everybody needs to continue to exercise their right to vote and talk to their friends about it as well. Kristin, thanks for the update on the Syria situation, a very legal, very real situation. If you don't mind hanging around, we'll be less serious and we'll talk about some music and history. If
Let's
you
do
will.
something fun.
All right, I think we'll do that then. More after this. You're up north. All righty.
So heavy.
I know, but there's no better person for it. Thank you.
I was going to
Yeah,
say,
of
once again,
course.
I'm so glad to hear somebody who's so much closer to this issue than I am have hope about it, because it's really easy to not.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's just it. And I mean, they won't stop trying, because that's what zealots do. So we will see.
Yeah, and that's why we are going to be persistent
Mm-hmm.
and together, and you continue to just maintain this goodness.
Yes.
Hmm. How choppy am I?
You're good.
My video is choppy.
No, you've been clear video, clear audio here.
Yep.
Great. It's always so iffy when I travel.
Oh, I know. I got Hans Brighton Moser emailed me yesterday and said, are you going to broadcast from Farm Technology Days next week? And I said, I just can't, because I mean, I could if it was a midday show, but 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm out there in a field in Baraboo. If things don't go right, there's no place I can go. And then Aaron's left there, going, I don't know, Pat's outstanding in his field someplace.
We already know that.
Yeah,
that you're outstanding in your field.
Right. But I would let once we get a reliable remote system set up, it'd be fun to do, but just not quite there yet. So
that could be
Cool.
Aaron's big shot.
mm-hmm.
What's my big shot?
When Pat is outstanding in a field and he loses the ability to communicate with the rest of the world, somebody has to take over.
Yeah, right. All right, 5 seconds. Here we go.
Gonna find my baby, gonna hold her tight, gonna grab some afternoon delight.
All right, you've either been transported back to 1976 and a song that should have been called Nooner, but apparently they thought of Afternoon Delight instead. Or it's taking you back to watching the movie Anchorman. Either way, it's a win for me.
I think of all the times my friends and I sang this when we were little, not really getting it.
Not having any idea.
That was hilarious.
Yep. Yeah, some of those lyrics now you go, how did that sneak through? But it did. And so there it was, the number one song in America this day in 1976, 2 weeks at number one. But I mean, it was on the radio every 15 minutes. It felt like that summer. And it was a good summer. It was the bicentennial summer. It was gorgeous. And you had this happy, upbeat song about sex. Yeah. On this day in 1999, a very iconic moment in sports. The U.S. women's national team defeated China in a penalty shootout at the Rose Bowl to win the final match of the FIFA World Cup. The winning penalty kick coming from Brandi Chastain, who then ripped off her jersey, waved it around, knelt, on the field, and was swarmed by everybody. Kristin, you remember that? That was huge. That was huge for women's soccer.
Every time I put on a sports bra, I think of Brandi Chastain. Not gonna lie.
She made that cool, All right, this let's see. In 1985, the summer big hit was Mel Gibson in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, where he starred along with Tina Turner.
We don't need to know the way home. All we want is what we are.
We got a lot of birthdays to share today. Greg Kinn of the Greg Kinn Band. Remember Jeopardy? He is 74 years old today, a native of Baltimore. The lead singer of Rascal Flatts, Gary LaVox, is 53. An Ohio native. His actual name is Gary Wayne Vernon, but it came out Gary LaVox when he was coming up with a stage name. Sofia Vergara is 51 years old today, the Colombian American actress from Modern Family. Jessica Simpson, Texas gal, is 43 years old today. Do we see much of Jessica Simpson anymore? She was all over. She was like an early reality TV star and a singer and everything else. And I don't know if we've seen her since
despite
that
her
Dukes of
best
Hazzard movie,
efforts.
right? Yeah. Despite her best. And one for Aaron here, because you got to give it up to the science and engineering and people that had an impact on music. Nikola Tesla, the Serbian-American physicist and engineer, was born this day in 1856. And I say this because if anybody's going to drive a Tesla before the rest of us, it's going to be Aaron.
Well, I certainly can't afford one right now.
No, not on a radio salary. Not a chance.
I thought you were going to go to the band Tesla.
I thought he might too. Yeah. Or, just something else that Tesla did, that maybe there's a Moog synthesizer that wouldn't be, responsible or possible without Tesla. But
Well, I mean, yeah, he definitely paved the way for a lot of electronics and is comparable to, what can I think of his name now? Light bulb inventor, Edison.
Yeah. The Edison Tesla rivalry is, that's BattleBots for the ultimate nerds here. The number one song this day in 1965 was from the Rolling Stones. I have to say, and I didn't cue it up here, but some remakes work, some don't. I actually kind of like the Devo remake in the mid 1980s. I have to see if we can find that later on. I can't get me no. On this day in 1925, the Scopes trial in Dayton, Tennessee, the so-called monkey trial of John Scopes, a young high school science teacher accused of teaching evolution. Kristin, it just comes back to what we were saying in our last segment. Ever vigilant, because there will always be, zealots and folks who think that science is, not right or something like that, who will be against the teaching of, facts and truth or even just theories, the ability to talk about theories that may run counter to current beliefs. You have to keep an open mind, and some people will actually put you on trial for trying to keep an open mind.
Mm-hmm. That noisy minority, that just means that those of us are the quiet majority. We have to, continue to use our voices and push back.
That's right. And one more song from 2004, American Idol winner Fantasia hit number one on this day.
Can lift you up and guide you on your way. I can see it in the stars across the sky.
On this day in 2008, by simply tapping an app button on an iPhone, music fans could finally find out, what's that song? It was called Shazam, a free smartphone app that premiered this day in 2008, the first music recognition service of its kind, using a phone's microphone to listen to any song and then identifying it. Interestingly enough, I've never used Shazam. Right about that time or shortly thereafter, somebody told me about SoundHound. And I've been using that ever since, not for any reason of preference. It's just, that's the first thing that I stumbled onto. And I'm sure there are others. I don't know. Maybe you guys use something completely different, or maybe you don't use it at all. I use SoundHound all the time to try to figure out what is that song, or what are the lyrics,
I use Shazam. I'm a Shazammer.
Okay.
I never downloaded Shazam, but for a long time now, it's been integrated in Snapchat. So now, just like if you are going to use a filter on Snapchat of like one of the weird ones that messes with your face, and you just hold your finger over your face. Same thing where if you hear music, hold your finger on there, and then it'll tell you what song it is.
Seriously, I did not know
Mhm.
that. I use Snapchat
Hey,
like every
Siri
day.
does that too.
Oh, Siri does it now too?
Yeah, now she's listening to me, but yeah, Siri
Oh,
does Shazam.
see, that's again showing my advanced age. I've never activated Siri. I get annoyed when Siri shows up on my watch. I always think of that old Saturday Night Live skit, you know, the kind of the Siri for old people. Like, how many people did Satchel Paige strike out last night? Siri says Satchel Paige is dead.
One of those names you got to be careful saying, but there's one that's worse that I'm not going to say.
No, don't, for goodness sakes. So I like these apps. Again, I just wish they weren't listening all the time, but that's kind of the price you pay for the convenience. We've got these smart speakers, and heck, Aaron, we haven't even done the commercial in the longest time where you can say something to your smart speaker. Again, that name that starts with an A, and if I say it, it'll screw up everybody's smart speaker. But say, "Hey, you, play 93.5 The Tap" or whatever, and it will. They're everywhere, and I should just get used to it.
I love how we were so concerned in 1984 about Big Brother, and now we cannot live without Big Brother in our houses.
Totally embrace it. Yep. And I'll be there too eventually. But just some of us take a little longer. Let's take a break for news and weather. And when we come back in our next hour, we'll talk about Congressman Mike Gallagher playing with Barbies. We'll be back here up north. I should have said playing politics with Barbie, but I ran out of time.
He does have 2 young daughters, so he is kind of in the Barbie
Oh yeah,
world.
I've been there. Barbie world.
I've been there.
It's
I was a
your
Barbie girl.
imagination.
I only last night watched the Barbie trailer,
Mhm.
and only mostly because of this, and I don't usually go to the theater for movies, but I think I might go for this one.
It just, it's one of those where I looked, just like this the whole time. Like, what is this? And did they actually make a movie about this?
Did
Yes.
you see Kate McKinnon's character?
No. I can only
She's the Barbie
imagine.
who got she looks terrible. She's like all beat up and somebody cut her hair. I was like, "Oh, that was my Barbie."
Okay. Now that you tell me it's got a Kate McKinnon character, I may have to relent.
Yeah, I'm
and Will
looking at it,
Ferrell's
yeah.
in it too.
Kate McKinnon plays the Barbie everyone destroyed as a kid in the new movie.
Oh.
I couldn't stop laughing last night when I saw that. It just hit way too close to home.
Oh, gosh. I'd like to watch it, but I got to sit through a 15-second ad here.
Are we also going to talk about the budget and
Yes.
the Republicans'
Mhm.
discomfort?
Yep.
I would have used the word incessant whining, but discomfort's also accurate, I guess.
Yeah. Yours is more descriptive.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm seeing Kate McKinnon's character on here now. That's fun.
So good.
Oh man. Yeah, we're gonna do Gallagher. Probably that'll probably take up everything before weather, and then after weather, some of the budget stuff. What's the temperature out there right now?
It is a balmy 65.
Oh, 69 in
It's high
Green Bay.
desert,
Yes.
so there's a lot of fluctuation, and it's not
Mhm.
gonna it's triple digits all week highs in Phoenix. I'm not sure what it's going to be here. Phoenix is like triple teens all week.
Ugh.
Yeah. We're like hovering right around 100. In Phoenix, it's 90 right now.
Oof.
And they are triple teens for the highs all week long. Actually, for the foreseeable future.
Ew.
No, thank you.
Which I'm sure is what I'm doing for the climate segment this week of the hottest days ever measured on planet Earth.
Seriously, Joel Charles is going to join us for Hometown Health on Thursday.
Oh, then we'll get 2 doses of it.
Yeah, he had a piece in the Examiner about the new EPA regulations and being able to use your voice and weigh in.
There we go. Okay. Oh no. Marsha Blackburn in a tweet says, Barbie is bending to Beijing to make a quick buck. I'm like, Barbie is bending to
Alliteration.
Beijing. Ew.
Also,
Blackburn.
I looked at the map in question,
It's
and
nothing. It's
Yeah.
not. I was actually inclined not to even bring this up. Just go, And then I looked at it's so ridiculous.
Yeah, at first I believed it because
I'm like, hey, if they want to make a point, yeah, if there's individual islands and things, like, yeah, that would actually be
no,
kind of,
there's dotted lines all over that map. It's a
Yes.
crane drawn map.
yes. It's so ridiculous. And this is what we get. This is what we get out of them these days.
But Vietnam did ban it, which they've banned a couple other films as well. But those films had like geographically accurate maps.
Mhm.
This one is really different
Yeah.
from
Asia's like
reality.
a rectangle. The entirety of Asia is like a rectangle on this one.
Did you see Africa?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Unbelievable. All righty. Let's see. Put you guys over here.
Here we go.
Here we go over here. And that's.
All across Wisconsin from Civic Media, this is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Minnesota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
Hey, welcome back to the second hour of Up North News Radio for this Monday, July 10th. Kristin Lyerly's here with us, along with Aaron Zomers as well, on this National Kitten Day and National Pina Colada Day. So if you've got a kitten, you can share your pina colada with the little fur ball today. It's legal. The
Could you
calendar
get
says so.
caught in the rain with your kitten and your pina colada?
I don't know, but my kitten and we are into champagne, so not much into health food. Here's the thing. I feel like my 70s music card should be pulled, that I did not think to have Rupert Holmes all queued up there for that with the Pina Colada song. I totally whiffed on that. But on this National Pina Colada Day coming up this hour, well, we're going to have Civic Media News Director Terry Bell at the end of the hour. He's going to talk about 3 things that you should know to start the week. We're going to talk a little bit about the state budget, the vetoes that Governor Evers made to it. And does that turn something into nothing, or is the Republicans' definition of nothing really something? But we're going to start with Congressman Mike Gallagher, who joins a long list of Republicans who have to find something, anything else, to create diversions from the lack of ideas and accomplishments. And it's not green M&Ms this time. It's not Bud Light. It's not rainbows. It's Barbie. Seriously, it's Barbie dolls. It's the Barbie movie and a map, and not the actual hurricane map that Donald Trump drew on with a Sharpie. Remember that? This is a cartoon map in a movie about Barbie dolls. And Kristin, I wish this was a joke, but apparently the congressman from your part of Northeast Wisconsin is making a big deal about a cartoon map.
Yeah, I don't really understand what's happening here. I mean, have you seen the map?
I've seen the map. Aaron, you've seen the map.
Yes, I will say before I saw it, when I just read the headlines, I believed it. I've heard of lots of media. Let's say there's a gay couple in a side story that's released about some kind of game or movie, and they just don't release it in China and things like that, and they get backlash for that. I've heard plenty of those stories, so I believed it. People sucking up to China, and then I looked at the map. And no, it's like a bunch of colored blocks, and there's dotted lines all over. This is one of many dotted lines, and I strongly believe it doesn't mean anything.
It means nothing. And I'll hear reading from Politico, the detail in question is a dashed line drawn on a map off the coast of Asia that critics have identified as a contested maritime boundary that Beijing draws more than 1,000 miles off its own coast to claim the vast majority of the South China Sea as its territory. Now, when you hear that, you think, oh, yeah, okay, this has geopolitical implications. China is, in fact, doing this. They're basically trying to bully their way into territory in the South China Sea. And so if this was some kind of an accurate map that essentially made that claim, this would all have merit. Kristin, it's 9 dashed lines written on a crayon where Asia looks to be a rectangle. There is nothing specific about it. And Aaron, didn't you say there's dashed lines all over the map?
There are, and actually this one is 8, which is important because the one on the real Chinese map is 9, and this is not 9 dashed lines. So if anything, they probably put a bunch of dashed lines, looked at it, and were like, oh crap, we need to make sure this isn't 9 so we don't accidentally do that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, see, that's
every time I look at the map and I think about this movie, I'm like, why would they intentionally? I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense at all to me.
Well, no. And what it does is it gives a reason for Congressman Gallagher, who leads a select House panel aimed at countering the influence of China, to say that the map, quote, illustrates the pressure that Hollywood is under to please the CCP censors, the Chinese Communist Party. While it may just be a Barbie map in a Barbie world, the congressman says, the fact that a cartoonish crayon scribbled map seems to go out of its way to depict the Chinese government's unlawful territorial claims illustrates the pressure that Hollywood is under to please CCP censors. I hope Warner Brothers clarifies that the map was not intended to endorse any territorial claims and was in fact the work of a formerly plastic anthropomorphic doll. Does he have any idea how silly he just made himself sound?
Well, I think Warner Brothers did. I mean, they said
did.
The map in Barbie Land is a childlike crayon drawing, and the doodles depict Barbie's make-believe journey from Barbie Land to the real world. And then they further go on to say that it was not intended to make any type of a
but it didn't stop.
Thanks for
You know,
all of the extra publicity. We really appreciate you helping us reach an audience that we otherwise probably wouldn't have reached.
right, exactly. And it tells you how ridiculous this is, that really the first two other members of Congress who jumped on this, Ted Cruz and Marsha
Mhm.
Blackburn of Tennessee. And really that's all you need to know, is that they will grab anything, the green M&Ms, the Bud Light, anything for a distraction, a diversion, something to make people, get them riled up, because
They're the culture war caucus.
they have nothing substantive to say, and they've done nothing substantive at all. Let's take a break. It is time, speaking of which, it's time for the All-Star break for baseball. We will talk about the Brewers' last game before the All-Star break, and we'll also get your full weatherology forecast all across the state of Wisconsin coming up next. You're Up North. There we go.
Nice, Aaron.
Very nice.
I'm going to coin that. They're the culture war caucus.
Mm-hmm. You should.
It's a good phrase.
Send you a note, Aaron.
I will ask.
I've really been enjoying reading Robin Voss's tweets lately.
Well, I have to, because that's what Twitter gives me all the time now, is that's what comes up first. I'm like, are you kidding
Yeah,
me?
and he's tweeting a lot, and he's really unhinged. So that's been fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, he said 98% of Wisconsinites identify as working or middle class. And I thought, identify as, we're winning you over.
Oh, look at this. I didn't check the Journal Sentinel an hour ago.
Uh-oh.
Rebecca Cook says she will announce her campaign against Eric Van Orden.
Yep. Mark Pocan was kind of hinting about that recently.
Oh, I'd been saying it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to send her a note, see if she wants to join us at 7:30.
Oh, nice.
Well, sure, we're getting blue skies now, but does it last is the big question. We're going to get a weatherology forecast coming up in just a bit. Tell you, though, first that it is 71 degrees up here on Lake Wissota on our home base, 93.5 the tap. Waukesha, you're coming in at 63 degrees for people listening on the Shaw. Amory, our listeners for Lake Air, are at 67. The Mad Radio listeners in Madison coming in at 70 degrees. Wade Miley pitched 6 strong innings, and the Brewers made a first inning run stand up in a 1-0 win over the Cincinnati Reds on Sunday. The victory pulls the Brewers to within a game of the Central Division leading Reds, and then they will pick it up and play 3 more games, but this time in Cincinnati when the All-Star break is over. Christian Yelich led off the Brewers half of the first with a ground rule double to extend his hitting streak to 9 games. And then Yelich scored on Jesse Winker's 2-out single to center. And that was all the scoring for the whole game, in a game that went rather quickly, 2 hours and 4 minutes, tying the record for the shortest ball game since the Brewers ballpark opened in 2001. 2 hours and 4 minutes. It's also the end of a streak of 17 games being played in 17 games being played in 17 days. And so now there will be a day off, except for Devin Williams and Corbin Burns, who will both be heading to Seattle for the All-Star game. And again, they will pick it up on Friday in Cincinnati. You can listen to the Brewers in the Fox Valley on Oshkosh Air Support 98.3 and 1100 AM, and WRCE News from the Center in Richland Center 107.7 and 1450 AM. Aaron, I'm not seeing a note there, so we're still waiting on the weatherology folks, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, we'll see what that is. I do know, I'm no meteorologist, Kristin, but I do know that there is a front approaching from the north that's going to give us some showers and thunderstorms moving in eventually, but 90s for one more day today before things turn a little bit cooler. And you can always hear your weatherology forecast during commercial breaks here on all of the Civic Media radio stations. So, Kristin, you have the perspective of being outside of Wisconsin right now. So as you look back in and you see Republicans talking about the vetoes from Governor Tony Evers on the budget bill, primarily vetoing that massive tax cut to the very wealthy, and them saying, that this is a budget that offers nothing to the middle class. You really get into a definition of what is nothing and what is the middle class, and they seem to be struggling with that definition.
Yeah, that giant category that is the middle class, that, like, let's be honest, it needs to be broken down, because the middle class is it, what are the numbers? The married couple making
Their idea of middle class is
36
$34,000 to $360,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
And if you're at $360,000, you're well within like the top 10% of wealth in the state. And should you be paying the same rate as somebody making $34,000? I don't know. Let's pick this up after we get an update on the forecast from weatherology. Here's Laura Lockwood to tell us more about the forecast for the state of Wisconsin. Laura, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Very good. Yourself?
Doing pretty good for a Monday. Still
Yeah.
working on coffee.
Yeah, well, not bad. And like I was telling folks just before you jumped on, there you can look on the radar or the map. You see this front up north, and you go, hey, I think much like a curtain dropping, this may do it for the 90s for up here in our part of the state for a while.
It will. So with this cold front, as you mentioned, that's just off to the north, it's going to be sinking southward as we head through the day today and into tonight. So you can definitely expect some slightly cooler temperatures for Tuesday. Today's probably going to be the warmest day throughout the state. And as that boundary continues to work southward, still looking pretty warm in the extreme southeastern portion of the state tomorrow. But once that boundary pushes further south across the border there, we are looking much cooler across the state. So good news there if you don't like the heat. And we'll also have the potential for a few showers and storms along that boundary, and some could be a little stronger, so keep a watchful eye on that. Now, today, looking fairly quiet. We'll have quite a bit of sun, a few clouds throughout the area. Temperature is very mild, and then we'll have that chance of showers and storms towards the afternoon and evening across the northwestern portion of the state as that boundary works its way in. Then as we head overnight, that chance of showers and storms will move more towards the central portion of the state. And then by Tuesday, we'll have that chance of showers and storms in the southern portion of the state. And some of these storms could be a little stronger, so we'll definitely keep a watchful eye in the sky. Going to be very isolated, but we could end up seeing a bow echo developing here as it continues to evolve. And then once that boundary moves through, we'll continue to have that chance of seeing a few more showers and storms kind of off and on during the middle and later part of the week, but temperatures much cooler than what we've been seeing here for today across the area. Still not too bad, anywhere from near normal to slightly below normal through a good portion of the state here once that boundary moves through. I'm meteorologist Laura Lockwood.
And I think that, Laura, we are going to have some really nice conditions here in Chippewa Falls for the Northern Wisconsin State Fair that opens up on Wednesday. So if it's not, hot, if it's not oppressive for everything from the livestock to the people in the midways, that's a nice deal.
That's a great start to the fair. Oh my gosh. Yes, definitely going to be quite lovely. Don't forget the sunblock, though, if we do get quite a bit of sunshine, and make sure to stay hydrated with proper fluids.
With proper fluids. Yes. Laura, thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Laura Lockwood from Weatherology. And I was, Kristin, picking up where we left off on the tax cut that Governor Evers vetoed for the very wealthy. One of my favorite reactions has been from Ann Jacobs from the Wisconsin Elections Commission, who tweets how fun it is to Watch Wisconsin Republicans do backflips trying to pretend that a household income of $300,000, which puts a family in the 96th percentile for household income, is middle class. So I was wrong when I said upper 10%, 90s, upper 4%, 96th percentile. There's nothing middle class about that. That's not to say that you don't have value. That's not to say that you don't deserve some kind of a tax cut. But what Republicans were willing to do to, again, blow away the surplus by sending so much of it up the very top and hoping that it trickles down is a recklessness that Governor Evers saved them from themselves.
It's totally reckless. It doesn't make any sense to me, Pat. Like, help me understand this. This is one-time money. So why would you use one-time money for a tax cut that is persistent? Like, one-time money should be used for those one-off projects, the things that you have been wanting to do. You know, it's like when you get a bonus at work and you're like, oh, we need a new car, or this is my chance to pay off my student loans or whatever. But you don't use that to go out and buy something that you can't afford in the future. I mean, that's not fiscally responsible.
No. And here's another thing that's not responsible is what you do with the numbers. And you again have, well, remember how before the vetoes, when this was first passed, and I said Republicans were going to package it as a 15% tax cut when it was on average, but only because so many millionaires got 16, 17% tax cuts while other people got so much less. And you have Republicans saying that, you know, so much of the surplus, you know, was not used properly, and that, you know, people missed out on such and such a tax cut. And again, they're using averages rather than letting people know that, you know, the person who makes the median income would have gotten something like a $60 tax cut. It wasn't going to flow down to them, and they should stop pretending that this was some veto of a giant middle class tax cut when it was anything but that.
Well, and let's remember how this all started. Remember, the governor toured the state and listened to people and heard what people wanted. And then he put together a budget that he presented. And immediately, what did the Republicans say? Within minutes of his budget address, the Republicans said, well, that's a non-starter. And they wiped the slate clean. There was no compromise there. They wiped the slate clean and started from scratch. And then they brought a budget forward, and the governor came back and compromised with them. Like, he worked with them to create a budget that wasn't nearly what he wanted to see. I mean, there was funding in there for charter schools and choice schools that, you know, nobody who's a public school advocate wanted to see. But that's what compromise is. So for the Republicans now to come out with official statements, like, did you see Van Weingard's statement?
I was actually going to go to that next. I was going to bring that up because, again, if you're unhappy with the other party, you know, if you want to express a little frustration, you know, sure, you can do that. But what Van Weingard said was, and he didn't actually use the words, he put asterisks in there, but still an official statement on official letterhead said that with his veto message today, Governor Evers said, F the taxpayers, they don't know a GD thing about spending their own money. How
It's disgusting.
juvenile
Yeah,
was that?
honestly, the
I
way
mean,
I see it
dude,
is,
put the coffee down.
yeah, if you're in the heat of the moment and you swear on the floor, like has happened with State Senator Johnson, um, that's one thing. That is something that, like I said, is in the heat of the moment. Maybe you look back and you think, I could have said something different.
Mhm.
But if you make a premeditated official press release and put censored swear words in it, it just looks like you're 12.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's the don't hit send right away. You know, walk away. You know, there's nothing that needs to, there's so few things where you need to hit send immediately. You can always get up, walk around a bit, come back and look at it and go, I could change that up a little bit. Van Weingard said no.
But this is different. This isn't a tweet. This was an official press release. It's not like
Exactly.
he could be super impulsive here. I mean, this is something that has to go through a little bit of a process. So this was clearly thought out and intentional, which makes it that much worse.
Right. And, you know, Again, the governor proposed a 10% cut across the board for people making under $100,000 and for couples making under $150,000. And then it would, that amount would diminish the higher up that you went, because as we've plainly established here, there are all kinds of people making $200, $250, $300,000 who are local community leaders, doctors, lawyers, accountants, and whatnot. It's not to say there shouldn't be any tax cut. But when Van Wangard and other Republicans are mad because their plan was rejected, a plan that would have given just 11 taxpayers, 11 people who each make more than $75 million a year. And each of those 11 people would get an average tax cut every year, a tax cut of $1.8 million. You're never going to have the high ground, no matter how much you try to fudge that math.
No, but the way that they keep messaging it and sending it out to the people as a middle class tax cut is just, it's reprehensible. I mean, come
It is,
on.
but here's what they know. They know if they keep repeating it, enough people
Uh-huh.
will believe it. So if you hear us and you go, oh, are they talking about this again? Yes, because we're going to counter, misinformation or fuzzy math and let people know who had the real tax cut plan and, who did not. And their idea of nothing is really something. Kristin, thank you so much. Appreciate joining us from the desert out there. Keep cool.
Love starting Monday mornings with you, Pat.
We'll do Thursday Hometown Health with Dr. Joel Charles. That'll be fun to talk about. So we'll
I can't wait.
do
Yeah.
climate stuff. All right. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
We'll be back with more after this. You're up north.
Earlier, Mark was just calling to bring up the song Barbie Girl by Aqua, which I thought was very funny.
What did I have for 7:30 for bumper music here?
Ain't No Mountain High Enough.
Oh, yeah, I don't need that. I can bring that one up anytime. Do you want to find that Barbie one?
Sure.
Okay. And I'll just throw a shout out to Mark.
Just like what was the name of that song earlier? Afternoon
Delight.
Yeah, Afternoon Delight. Just like that. Barbie Girl is one that I thought, why don't they use this for their official song? And then I was older and I actually heard the lyrics and I was like, huh, okay, maybe not. Be right back. I'm going to refill my water.
Mm-hmm.
Follow Up North News with our daily newsletter. Go to our website, upnorthnewswi.com, and click newsletter on the top banner. Once again, here's Pat Kreitlow.
Hiya, Bobby.
Hi, Ken.
You want to go for a ride?
Sure, Ken.
Jump in.
I'm a Barbie girl in the Barbie world.
Hey, don't blame me if that earworm gets stuck. That was Mark from Prairie du Sac calling in to remind us of that song, and that's what he was reminded of, hearing that a congressman from Wisconsin is taking it upon himself to get very serious and offer some very serious commentary about a cartoon map in the Barbie movie. But you can obviously understand why people like Kristin Lyerly are contemplating, whether somebody should challenge the Republican incumbent there in the 2024 elections. Well, to that end, there's news about another Republican incumbent and potential challengers in 2024, and that would be in Wisconsin's 3rd congressional district, where this morning Lawrence Andrea from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel is reporting that Rebecca Cook, one of 4 candidates who took part in the primary last year, is saying that she will make another run for the 3rd congressional district seat, the one that is now occupied by Republican Derek Van Orden, who defeated State Senator Brad Pfaff. Pfaff was the candidate who emerged from last year's Democratic primary. And Pfaff, if he wants to run again, if he wants to challenge Van Orden in 2024, he would have to give up his seat in the state Senate, because a state Senate term is every 4 years. And so when he ran last year, it was essentially a free pass for him. He was in the middle of a Senate term. So if Pfaff wants to make another attempt to run for Congress, it opens up that seat, one that Republicans clearly believe they have a chance of taking back, and one that Pfaff would almost certainly hold if he ran for re-election. But Pfaff is considering a run for Congress, as is at least one of the other candidates, former CIA officer Deb McGrath, who, again, is thinking that she may give it another go. They all were relatively happy with their turnout in the primary, with Brad Pfaff getting the most votes because he certainly had the highest name ID, being a state senator from that district and being a former cabinet official as well. But whether Pfaff runs again or not, it looks like Rebecca Cook is in the race for sure, and that Deb McGrath is weighing a race. And according to Lawrence Andrea's article, Missy Hughes, the CEO of the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation and a member of Governor Evers' cabinet, is also considering a bid, according to multiple Democrats in the state. Cook won 11 counties in the primary last year across the 3rd district, with a lot of support around the Eau Claire area. She's a small business owner. She said to the Journal-Sentinel that she is really focused on running a race that people can get behind and that I think can clear the field. Rural voters are interested, I think, in the perspective that I bring. I want to represent those folks and really work for them to move the needle and make a difference in the lives of everyday people. Apparently, again, according to Lawrence Andrea's article, one factor in Brad Pfaff's decision will be whether the state legislative district lines are redrawn to give Democrats more representation at the state level. The state Supreme Court will hear a challenge to the maps sometime later this year after Janet Protasewicz takes her seat. Expect a challenge to be filed to the maps. Whether that would be done in time for the 2024 elections, of course, is to be determined. But more importantly, will the case be resolved and new maps be drawn by the time candidates would have to file? So it's really not so much next November of 2024, but you're really looking more at like March, April, May of next year. Will a challenge to the maps be heard that quickly, get to the state Supreme Court? Will the state Supreme Court then either pick another proposal for legislative maps, or will the court decide to draw its own maps, which it has the power to do? So there are a lot of what ifs here in the decision on whether Brad Pfaff runs for his state Senate seat or decides to run for Congress. But Becca Cook said in the Journal Sentinel story, she painted Van Orden as someone tied to party leadership, not the people of the district. She dismissed Van Orden's recent talk of bipartisanship and his attempts to redefine himself, especially after being, shall we say, insurrection adjacent on January 6th on the grounds of the U.S. Capitol. Cook said, at the core, Derek Van Orden is someone that is very ego-centered, really focused on himself. I don't think he's hustling for any of us. I think the special interest in Washington and kind of being Kevin McCarthy's lackey is where he has positioned himself. And really, if no matter who all decides to get into the Democratic primary and who emerges from it, it will be the most competitive House election in Wisconsin among the congressional races. But as we've talked about, there could be a competitive race in the 8th district against Mike Gallagher up in Northeast Wisconsin and in Southeast Wisconsin in the 1st district, where Republican Brian Stile represents that part of Wisconsin right now. Expect national Democrats to be much more heavily invested in 1 or 2 or 3 of those races. There will not be a governor's race next time around. Senator Tammy Baldwin will be running. She'll be running as a relatively strong incumbent. You'll have the presidential campaign, but you will still see national Democrats focused on these Wisconsin congressional districts, if for no other reason than to keep from getting yelled at again and again and again, I would hasten to add, as a former congressional candidate, getting yelled at for pulling out way too soon, for essentially conceding the race to Van Orden in the 3rd district when Brad Pfaff ended up finishing much closer than people would have expected. And there's no telling what would have happened if the National Democratic Party and the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee hadn't pulled out as early as they did. So from the standpoint of the 3rd district, maybe the 1st, maybe the 8th, expect to see a lot more being done in those races and trying to keep them competitive and give voters a real choice come November of 2024. As I mentioned earlier, the Up North News daily newsletter comes out around 5 a.m. on weekdays. And in today's edition of the newsletter, along with some of the features about Wisconsin's top tourist trap, which is rated as the Mars Cheese Castle in Kenosha, and what it is that makes it so irresistible to people who are driving into Wisconsin. But also in the newsletter this morning is my editorial on the high price of lowering child labor standards. Because from bars and restaurants to meatpacking plants and factories, Wisconsin employers, they are facing a very tough labor market, one of the tightest labor markets on record. But the recent death of a teenager up north should serve as a sobering reminder of why child labor laws were originally placed on the books. The 16-year-old died on June 30th, 2 days after some kind of what's called an industrial accident occurred at Florence Hardwoods, a sawmill up in Florence County. And the incident comes not long after another Wisconsin-based company was fined more than $1 million for illegally employing more than 100 children, some as young as 13, to do cleanup work involving hazardous chemicals and dangerous equipment in meatpacking plants. Again, this is a Wisconsin-based company that cleans meatpacking plants around the country and employed more than 100 children, some as young as 13, to work with hazardous chemicals and dangerous equipment. The response from Republican lawmakers in Wisconsin and elsewhere has not been what you would call the pro-life, pro-child position, shall we say, but rather quite the opposite, looking for ways to make it even easier for kids to be in the workplace. Republicans in several states have sponsored bills to loosen restrictions on child labor. In Wisconsin, That includes a proposal to drop to 14 the minimum age at which someone could serve alcohol to seated customers in bars and restaurants. Other measures would allow for longer working hours on school nights and even roll back age verification for work permits. It does seem, sadly, that it is the latest instance of those who forget their history are doomed to repeat it. This all goes back to 1938 when Congress passed the Federal Fair Labor Standards Act. It was designed to protect children from exposure to dangerous conditions and abusive practices in factories and in mines, on farms and in street trades. But we are in an economy now with a record number of people employed. And we talked about this with Mark Jacob, this time last Friday, that no matter how badly Republicans want to try to spin it, the economy is extremely healthy right now. More people employed than ever. And Republicans recognize this because they're giving in to the temptation to encourage more teen employment. Now, it's not just because of a tight labor market. Why else would you do this? Well, much like immigrant laborers, child laborers are a group that is more likely to accept low pay and unsafe conditions. They are less likely to unionize. And that's all according to Reed Mackey, who is director of the Child Labor Coalition, which advocates against exploitative labor practices. Mackey said, you can't balance a perceived labor shortage on the backs of teen workers. The consequences are potentially disastrous. And again, we don't know the exact conditions that led to the death of a teenager in a sawmill up north, other than to say, again, we should be thinking long and hard about whether this is really the way that we want to go in this country. And if we do that, at what price does it come? The Iowa legislative session recently finished up, and they too relaxed child labor laws. They have talked about ways to alleviate the labor crunch, short of anything other than reforming immigration, which is something we've known needed to be done long, long ago. We knew the baby boom was running its course. We knew there was going to be a need for workers. And we know, because we've done it in the past, that we can reform the immigration system in a positive way, where there are set standards, rules that people must follow. And in so doing, you bring immigrants in, you help address the labor shortage. You do it in a way where people are documented. We know where they are. They're not off the grid. And instead, because too many Republican politicians want to politicize this issue, they have repeatedly torpedoed bipartisan attempts to fix immigration. There is overwhelming bipartisan support. But to overcome a Senate filibuster or some of the media campaigns that are waged against certain politicians, those politicians tend to back down because immigration reform is just not that high on their list of things to do. They know it must be done, but if they're going to catch heat from their right wing and they don't want to be primaried, then they back away. And that's unfortunate because the solution to our labor shortage is right in front of us. But to do it, we have to stop demonizing people who come from outside the country, who don't look like us, who don't speak our language at first, just like a whole lot of our ancestors. But it's a lot easier for the Tom Tiffanys of the world to play politics with immigration and to push for more teenagers to be put in dangerous or unhealthy conditions. Civic Media News Director Terry Belt joins us next with 3 things to know to start the week. We'll look forward to that and wrap up our conversation for this Monday morning here in just a bit. You're up north.
Oh, I'm having so much fun.
Well, Bobby, we're just getting started.
Oh, I love you, Ken.
Senior Terry,
Good
how are you?
morning. I'm good. How are you?
I am very good, thanks.
Good. Refresh my memory. Is Wisconsin 93% severe drought?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't seen a number for a while here.
Yeah,
We just know it's bad.
yeah.
Let's see.
Okay. 93% of the state is in one form of drought or another.
Okay.
Okay. That I can work with. So what's new?
How much? It was a really nice weekend. Yeah, happy to have such nice weather. Wish it would
Mhm.
last.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Every week at this time, Civic Media News Director Terry Bell joins us with 3 things to know to start the week. Kind of your weekly reset over there, Terry. I know that out there on University Avenue, the old studio will eventually be replaced by something up on Capitol Square. I know that place has been emptying out, but it looks like they've taken the light bulbs away from you too. That thing is really it's
Yeah, boy.
dark, and I know they leave poor air in there in a closet, but boy, they really are getting near the end, aren't they?
With any luck, we keep hearing 2 weeks. I'll let you know in another 2 weeks what
Right?
happens. But
It's like so many other construction projects. Like, there's only a couple things left, but not yet.
no,
Not
yeah.
yet. Very
Looking
soon.
forward to getting up there, though.
Yeah. No, it's going to be great once it's all set here. So, all right, well, let's get the weekend rolling here. What's one of the three things people should know as we get the week started?
Well, one of the things we should know. Let's start with the one that is really obvious and affecting us all to a great extent. And that is the drought in Wisconsin. 93% of Wisconsin is under some level of drought or another. And to those of us who live in cities, we see it around us in the yellow grass that ought to be green by now. But let's face it, what this really affects most importantly is farmers. This is getting to be a critical part in the growing season. And if things don't improve soon, it could be disastrous. July is an important month for pollination, especially when it comes to corn. And if conditions don't return to normal soon, that window is going to run out. The old expression is knee high by the 4th of July. Actually, this time of year, corn should be about waist high. And
Yeah.
by most of my anecdotal accounts, I see it's about ankle high at
Yeah.
this point.
It is there. It's up around this area where we received a little bit more rain. Again, it is barely hip high, and it's somewhat sad driving past there. And when you consider not just 93% of Wisconsin in some form of drought conditions, but just about 28% of the state is in the severe, extreme, severe or extreme categories, that again tells you there's a real need, not just for the occasional rain like we might see this evening, but we're going to need something sustained. And I don't see any sustained rainfall on the forecast. So this is not going to be, this is not turning into a great growing season so far.
No, down here in southern Wisconsin, we're looking at a chance of rain in the middle of this week, but again, that's maybe for just a few hours. What we could use is maybe a couple of days of a slow, sustained, soaking rain. You don't want it to come down too much too fast, or else on dry ground, it just rolls right off. You need a chance for that ground to absorb the moisture, and that's what we have not been getting all year long.
If you look at state politics heading into the week, this really theoretically, we're moving into the quiet season. The legislative session is done. A state budget has been passed. The governor has signed it. He has applied line item vetoes throughout it. So you would think things would then get really quiet. They will eventually, but not quite yet, because there's still so much back and forth in terms of the reaction either to the vetoes or to what Republicans were willing to put up before the vetoes. And that's the second thing to watch this week.
Absolutely. There may be some more work on the state budget to do, even though the governor signed it late last week. It's possible for lawmakers to go back and, come up with some new appropriations bills. But and especially since there's a lot of unhappiness about Governor Evers' line item vetoes, Speaker Robin Voss made a lot of waves this weekend, going as far as to call the governor a liar on statewide television. The question is whether or not, who's telling the story as to what Evers promised during closed door negotiations with Republican leaders last week. Robin Voss says the governor went back on promises he made to keep things in the budget. Governor Evers says those were not promises he made, and anybody saying such things was not in the closed door session. So it's going to be interesting. It's hard to imagine right now with tempers being as hot as they are right now. And as you mentioned, this is typically the slow time of year for the legislature. Maybe when lawmakers come back in August or September, maybe temperatures will have cooled off enough by then that maybe they can, sit down and negotiate again. But I kept thinking about last fall and winter, when it seemed like there was kind of a kumbaya moment, when it seemed like there might be bipartisanship coming into the session. And there was quite a bit of, I think for Wisconsin in recent years, quite a bit of bipartisanship in crafting, especially the budget, in many respects, not all, of course. But boy, we seem to be back on square one now when it comes to any sort of harmonious feelings between the two major parties.
Oh, I do think it'll get worse before it gets better. I think that when legislators come back in the fall, even though the governor has said, hey, because of my vetoes, here's $1.5 billion to work with next year and $1.5 billion to work with the year after. Let's do something about childcare and several other things. And I just fully expect the negativity to ratchet up. And instead, any bills that are passed in the fall are going to be things that are, of course, going to be vetoed right away. And it just goes to underscore again how unnecessary all this is. With a $7 billion surplus, there was so much room for a win-win all around on this. And that Republicans wouldn't, do that with the governor and keep pushing for, high income tax cuts and things is, you can't both sides the negativity on this. I'm sorry, in my opinion, you just can't. Third thing to keep in mind for the weekend, and we won't be around for it because it happens on Saturday, but Saturday is July 15th. It's a big day here in northern Wisconsin.
715.
There you go.
715 day. That's right. So a lot of events happening around. I see most of that I was able to glean seem to be happening in central Wisconsin, Stephen Point and Wausau. A lot of businesses offering deals and some neat events. 715 happens to fall on a Saturday this year, so that creates a lot of fun possibilities. So good opportunity for people in the 715 area code to celebrate about what makes that part of the world so unique and so terrific.
It's a wonderful place to be, and yeah, there's everything from, like you said, there's shopping deals, there's activities. The one that stuck out for me is in Plover. Plover Yoga is going to have a day of fitness at Fifner Pioneer Park. So Terry, if you and I want to meet in Plover, there's a 7:30 in the morning group workout. There's an all level flow at 9 a.m. There's a club dance at 10:30, a boot camp workout at noon, and on it goes. So, I mean, of all the 715 shopping deals in Wausau and Chippewa and every place else, I think this one might be the most imaginative.
Yeah, let's whip ourselves into shape.
Yeah, no, let's not. It's 715. I'm gonna have a lineies in my hammock. Thank you,
go.
Terry. Have a
Thank you,
great
Pat.
start to the week. All right, and thanks to all of you for joining us as well. Tomorrow we will have Lee Rosh, formerly of Western Wisconsin Technical College, now from the group Keep Our Republic. We'll talk to Hans Breitenmoser. We'll have Kristin Lyerly with the Uplift. Remember, you can follow me all day long on Facebook. Just go to Pat Kreitlow Up North. And those of you who are taking us down by the podcast, we love every download. Come back again soon. And if you're listening live, keep it right here on the Civic Media Radio Network. Have a great Monday. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Let me know if you need anything.
All righty. See ya.